Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll be taking you through the solo co-op rules for Rogue Warriors found in Ungentlemanly Warriors, the solo campaign expansion. It's time to get sneaky in Rogue Warriors using the new solo rules, which are split into two phases. The Sentry phase, which is all about using stealth tactics, and then there's the Alarm phase where you'll take on enemy warriors face to face. The solo rules are great for Ungentlemanly Warriors as they perfectly fit the covert World War II SOE theme, but you can use these solo rules for any game of Rogue Warriors, from one-off missions to campaigns like Tiger Blood and the other expansions that we've got planned. This video will accompany the rules in the book, so I hope you find it helpful, and let's get started. Now, a directional dice is going to be really useful, but if you don't have one, don't worry, just use a regular D6 and the directional template that we've included in the book. The enemy are allowed to pre-measure at any time, and you're going to find that this is important. The player warriors, however, cannot pre-measure. They play with the regular rules. But the player warrior can use the Arc of Vision templates anytime they want to, and we're going to cover those in detail in the Sentry phase section of the video. In the game, the player will control warriors as normal, and the enemy will be controlled by the AI mechanics that are built into the rules. When it's time to activate, the player and the enemy will roll off to see which side activates first as normal. During the player's activation, if they roll on their activation roll a result of 1, then the player warrior furthest away from the enemy must be activated. For each enemy activation, you're going to roll 1d6 and then consult the tables to see which enemy will activate. Each enemy enlisted and enemy warrior will be assigned numbers that they keep for the duration of the mission. If you roll a result for an enemy that has already been activated that round, apply a -1 modifier to the result. If that enemy has also been activated, apply another -1 modifier, and so on. If there is more than one enemy enlisted, for example 2 caretakers, roll a d2 and then decide which sentry activates. There are 2 phases in solo play. The first is the Sentry phase, and this is where the enemy enlisted are in play with the Arc of Vision rules. We're going to cover that in more detail in a bit. The enemy enlisted will use instructions on Sentry cards and spotting check cards. The second phase is the Alarm phase, and now the enemy enlisted and enemy warriors are in play with normal line of sight rules. All enemy warriors must be activated before the enemy enlisted, and the enemy enlisted and enemy warriors both now use the AI charts. If at any time you think they'd never do that, then feel free to perform the most suitable action at that time. The rules are not set in stone, and the AI system cannot account for every eventuality. There will be times where you're going to have to improvise as the player. Now let's look at the Sentry phase in detail, and we're only going to use the enemy enlisted and the player warriors in this phase. To control the enemy, you'll use the patrol paths as detailed on each mission map, and the Sentry cards. We're going to cover the Sentry cards in more detail, but here's a quick example of the perimeter Sentry card, and then the map will tell you which direction to move the Sentry. In this example, it's the Watch Commander, and they're going to go in random directions. And here we've got a guard, and the guard is going to go back and forth from 2 different points on the map. Let's look at enemy facing and Arc of Vision. During the Sentry phase, the enemy can only look in the direction they are facing, and they can only see what is in their Arc of Vision. When moving the enemy models, it's really important to orientate them in the direction of movement at all times. When following the patrol paths, just simply turn the model and then move them along the path so they're facing forward. The Arc of Vision is decided using the 2 templates that we've included in the book. You'll find one for the day and one for the night, and the night is slightly narrower to represent the darker and more shadowy environment. When using the templates, extend the lines to the battlefield edge, and that's going to cover everything they can see in their Arc of Vision. Now let's look at Sentry cards, and Sentry cards will detail the Sentry types, including Watch Commander, Caretaker, Overwatch, Guards, and Perimeter. Each Sentry type has a specific role to play on the battlefield. Each Sentry card will tell you the activation number, the Sentry type, the patrol path they must take during the Sentry phase, how to move the enemy during the Sentry phase, which AI chart to use during the alarm phase, and finally, which weapon the enemy will use in the alarm phase. The Sentry cards are at the back of the book for easy reference. You can also cut them out, and we've put in some print-friendly options too. In Ungentlemanly Warriors, for the enemy sentries we're only using the enlisted, so use the starting movement allowance, hearts, hits on, and melee dice pool characteristics from the enlisted sections of the table. Now let's look at spotting checks, as is the chance during the Sentry phase that the enemy will spot you. All the rules for spotting checks are found on the light cover card, the heavy cover card, and there's a third card, the modifier card, and that's all you need for the spotting checks rules. There'll be 2 times when spotting checks will have to be carried out. Number 1, when an enemy is activated and a player warrior is in their arc of vision at any time during their activation. Number 2 is when a player warrior moves into the arc of vision even if it's not the enemy's activation. A player warrior will be immediately spotted if they are in the enemy's arc of vision without cover at any distance, but sometimes they're going to have light cover or heavy cover. That will tell us which spotting check card to use. If the player warrior has cover, there's a chance they haven't been spotted, and so it's good to imagine that they're in the shadows, crouching down, maybe they're wearing camouflage or camouflage paint, but generally trying to stay out of sight of the enemy. If they're in light cover, you'll use the light cover spotting check card, and if they're in heavy cover, you'll use the heavy cover spotting check card. Let's go through an example of how it works. So each card has got all the instructions you need. In this example, the player warrior is in the enemy's arc of vision with heavy cover. So we're going to roll 1d6 as it instructs us to do so on the card. You can see here the results are 5. Now normally, between 2 and 6, nothing happens. If we got a 1, the guard would be curious, and then they would move 5 inches towards the player warrior. The player warrior would then be fully in their arc of vision without cover, and so they would be spotted. But as it stands now, nothing happens. However, we've got some modifiers to apply here. So we have a look down the list, and if part of the player warrior is in the template, we'll apply -1. If the enemy is within 3 inch of the player warrior, we'll apply a further -1. And perhaps the enemy has got a dog, and in that case we'd have to apply a further -1. We now apply -3 to the roll because of those 3 conditions, and that gives us a 2. So luckily here the warrior's got away with it and the guard's going to carry on with his duties. Now we're going to look at something that's really fun, a brand new rule called Stealth Kill. And a player warrior can carry out a stealth kill during the Sentry phase, but there are some conditions. The warrior must be armed with a Fairbairn Sykes fighting knife. They must choose package 2 and then finish the move action in base contact with an enemy. And then they must carry out the move action unspotted and from directly behind the enemy's arc of vision. A stealth kill automatically takes out the enemy, so no dice rolls are required. Look out though, because if a stealth kill is carried out on an enemy within 6 inches of another enemy or enemy dog, the alarm is raised immediately. There are 5 events that will cause the alarm to be raised, so let's work through those now. Number 1 is when a player warrior has been spotted. Number 2, when a shot has been fired. Number 3 is when an explosion has gone off. Number 4, when a melee combat attack has been carried out. And finally, number 5, when a stealth kill has been carried out within 6 inches of another enemy or an enemy dog. Once the alarm is raised, move immediately to the alarm phase and bring on the enemy warrior reinforcements. Each mission brief will tell you which enemy warriors to bring into play, and you'll be taking them from the enemy team found on page 49 of the Ungentlemanly Warriors book. Now we're on to the final part of the video, the alarm phase. Now we're going to do away with the arc of vision templates, sentry cards and spotting cards. They're no longer used. Instead, we're going to use the line of sight core rules as normal, where models can look and attack in any direction regardless of where they are facing. During the alarm phase, the enemy enlisted and the enemy warriors are going to be controlled by the AI charts. There are 3 AI charts altogether: the shooting AI chart, melee and fixed position. On this fixed position AI chart, you'll see that the AI charts are going to tell you how to move the enemy during the alarm phase, when to attack with them, and the type of attack you're going to use. They may look a little bit much at first, but after a few games, you'll find that the flow becomes really intuitive, and you'll probably find you rarely need to refer to them, if at all. The alarm phase is really simple. That's pretty much all there is to it. Now you're going to continue to play a regular game of Rogue Warriors, activating alternatively and then following the steps on the AI charts using the correct AI chart for each enemy model. And you'll find that on either the Sentry card, and in this example for the Watch Commander, he'll use the melee AI chart. And for the Warriors, on the enemy team sheet, it tells you which AI chart to use for each one underneath their weapons. If you played the Sentry phase sneakily and got those stealth kills in, there's a good chance you won't have too many to contend with, and maybe just those enemy warriors. But if you get spotted early, you could have a real fight on your hands. Now it's time to get stuck in, as we've covered all the rules you need to know for the Sentry phase and the Alarm phase, and in Ungentlemanly Warriors we're going to use both of those phases, but if you're going to apply them to some of the other games in the series and different expansions or missions you've created yourself, then you can choose to just use either the Alarm phase or the Sentry phase, or both. It's entirely up to you. If you choose to go for the alarm phase on its own, then that's going to be much more like a regular player versus player game, but going up against the AI instead. We've included some solo tips and an FAQ in the book and on our website, which we'll keep updated, but basically follow the instructions, work through them one step at a time, be aggressive with the enemies, close down the player warriors, and prepare to improvise and adapt any time you think the rules don't quite fit the situation on the table. If you haven't seen them already, there's many more videos on the channel, including how to assemble a team for Rogue Warriors. You'll find a video going through all the core rules in detail. And finally, an overview of the process to design your own missions, which is a massive part of the game and really good fun. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it a helpful companion to accompany the Ungentlemanly Warriors solo campaign book rules. And if you want to find out more about that, there's a link in the description down below. If you've got any questions, please add them below. Come and join our Facebook group. It's really fun to see what everyone's getting up to with the game. And of course, you can drop me an email as well. So any questions about any of the rules, please add them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it or if it helped you in any way, it'd be great if you hit the like button. Subscribe to keep up to date with all the new videos, and you'll see when the demo game is released. That'll be up on the channel very soon, but for now, thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. A massive thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping me keep going with these regular videos. I hope you've been enjoying the perks and discounts on the Rogue Warrior games recently. Lots more to come, and if you're interested in finding out more about Patreon, supporting me here on the channel, there's a link down below, and we'd love to see you over on our Patreon page.